Okay, this is a quick hit video on how to set up a arrayed or patterned hole system. So what I've done already is I've created a basic block, and we're going to go ahead and pattern a hole setup here on this particular face. So I'm going to go ahead and place the sketch plane on that face, because for the sketch plane what that will allow me to do is put some construction lines or center lines on this particular plane to help me locate all the features. I could do it really simply by just using the point command and dropping a point and then dimensioning that point. But we can also do it through the line command. So we can pick the line command, find the middle point, and there is a midpoint here. It will turn in the giant green dot, and then bring it across and do the same thing and make it perpendicular. Well, you notice that the line itself, I'm going to go ahead and choose OK, the line itself is not a center line, so I'm going to pick it and then move up to the top and choose center line, and it changes it to a center line. So that gives me a point of reference, but I'm going to also make a center line vertically also, and this just gives me the ability to easily locate the center of the whole block itself. So again, make that a center line. I'm now going to go ahead and place the point command on the center line in a location where it's about where I think the hole can be. And you can see that the center line itself, or the point, is not that large, but it is dimensionable. So I can take and dimension this particular center point not only to the top, we'll make this 0.75, but also if it's not on direct center, I can dimension it from the center point to the vertical line, and if it comes up with a dimension, then I know that it's not exactly centered. In this case, it is directly on the center line and there is no need for any centering. So we're done with the basic sketch. So I'm going to make a hole in this location. We're going to array it around the center point of the two intersecting center lines. We'll choose Finish Sketch. Okay, so the finished sketch location has me creating this particular object. Well, there's two things that have to happen. Number one, for this to actually be an array, I've got to have a feature. So in this case, it's got to have a hole. The second thing is that I need to have an axis directly through the center of the two center lines. So let's do the axis first, because that's the more difficult thing, and then we'll do the hole, which is the easy part. So for the axis, I'm going to use a work feature called an axis. I'm going to pick the axis, and that axis is going to have to be located directly on the midpoint of that location. But it's really hard to find that location. So instead of using the axis first, I'm going to go ahead and put a point. What's really nice is that the point, I should be able to, let me hit the top view to get it squared up, I should be able to get a point directly to those locations. Because I do want it to be, now there's a couple of ways to do this. I could also put a point, go back and put a sketch point right in that location, and that may be the best and easiest thing to do. So how do you go back and edit a sketch already created? Just go back on the list here on the browser bar and double click on the, in this case, sketch number 2. Let me go ahead and cancel out of my current command, and then sketch number 2. I'm going to go ahead and put a point at that location also, and that will give me a direct point. And that point will allow me to then choose an axis location. There it is. See how it kind of lights up yellow there? I can now pick that location. What's unique about it though is that I need to have the axis to go vertical. Now I could move it X or Y or Z, but to make sure that it goes in the right direction, you can see that in the lower left I've got a Y, X, and Z icon. I need it to go in the Y direction. Now to guarantee it, here's a little trick. On the browser bar there's a folder called Origin. If we hit the plus sign next to Origin, it gives me different surfaces in X, Y, and Z axes. If I were to pick the Y axis, because that's the one that's vertical here, it will automatically put the axes line along the plane or along the surface that I need. And so in this case, the work axis is going to be along Y. So that's the hard part. The hard part is getting that axis into place, and the easiest way to do that is to put a point in location, then use the axis tool, pick that point, and then use the origin option of y-axis, or it could have been x or z depending upon how your coordinate system is laid out. You need to look at the coordinate system to determine the direction. So on the top view again, we're looking straight at it. We're going to go ahead and put a hole in place. So we're going to purposely pick the center here. Let's see here. So we're going to pick the point. I did on point. Okay, if I pick from sketch, it's going to pick both locations, and I don't want both center point locations. I just want one. So there's two ways to do that. I can pick hole. I'm not going to pick it from the sketch, but what I can do is I can pick it linear. And the linear, I can locate it close to the position, and then it's going to be 0.125. Well, I just messed up there, but that's okay. We can edit the feature, and then I can choose the two reference lines. In this case, it's going to be 0.75 off of there and 1.5 off of there. So it's directly exactly in the spot that I need. So it just so happened that it worked out perfectly. Once you have the hole in place, then you use the tool called circular pattern. So circular pattern allows us to take a feature. I'm going to grab and rotate this just a little bit. To grab a feature, in this case it's going to be the hole. Then we've got to pick a rotation axis. So I'll pick the rotation axis button. We're going to pick that as our rotation axis. And as you can see, what it's doing is it's patterning our hole. In this case, there's 6 at 360 degrees. I can go like 18. So there's 18 holes at 360 degrees, or maybe I only want it to do 180. So there's 18 holes at 180 degrees. In our case, we need 3 holes at 360 degrees. So there we have it. 3 holes, each one of these 120 degree angle apart from each other. So the key is to get one along the axis and then calculate, or have the computer calculate, the position of the other holes. When I choose OK, all 3 holes are there. Now what's interesting is that if I go in and edit this hole, so if I go in and edit that hole and I make this one, instead of 0.125, 0.25, uh-oh, put a hole in there. That's not good. We need to undo that. So I want the linear hole here. And if I go from 0.125 to 0.25, watch what happens. All 3 holes automatically get sized the same way. So the key is utilizing the hole command and the circular pattern tool to generate a quick patterned layout.